From the studios of Farm Journal Broadcast, this is AgDay.
Where's the rain?
We have not had any significant rain to fill ponds or to grow grass.
The challenges many farmers and ranchers right now are facing as drought conditions linger. China's interest in South America, how this new port could become a game changer as a senator from a farm state takes a leading role.
Well, I think just making sure that it has a seat at the table and a voice in the decision-making process.
What Senator Thune's new job as majority leader could mean for agriculture right now on AgDay.
AgDay is brought to you by Pioneer. Pioneer brand corn has the home field advantage with rigorous local testing to give you a winning season. Pioneer brand corn, your best years starts here.
Good morning, I'm Clinton Griffiths. Senate Republicans have elected a new leader, and he comes from a farm state. As we first told you yesterday, 63-year-old Senator John Thune of South Dakota has promised to work closely with President Trump. That's despite differences the two have had over the years. AgDay's Michelle Rook joins me, and Michelle, Thune's leadership is seen as a win for agriculture.
That's right, Clinton. Thune's election as Senate Majority Leader is beneficial for U.S. agriculture for many reasons, including his deep background in ag policy as a member of the Senate Ag Committee and his experience writing several farm bills. However, he's an advocate for agriculture, and his common sense bipartisan approach will help him use this position to protect and promote farm and ranch families and their interests. South Dakota Senator John Thune has been a longtime champion of agriculture. His agenda and voting record show he understands agriculture is the backbone of the economy. He told me he can help farmers and ranchers and the ag industry even more in this new role.
Well, I think just making sure that it has a seat at the table and a voice in the decision-making process at the highest levels of leadership in our country.
Coming from South Dakota, he'll keep ag interests at the forefront of his agenda. During Farm Bill listening sessions this year, he emphasized the need for more farm in the Farm Bill and is a big supporter of conservation title programs.
This is the 5th Farm Bill I've worked on. We make a real point of listening intently to the organizations here in South Dakota and individual producers, but that impact agriculture. And that drives our decision making, that shapes the way that we view these issues. And hopefully through the years it's helped produce outcomes and results that have been good for the ag economy.
The Republican is bipartisan and a skilled negotiator who focuses on his constituency. He also has an experienced staff critical for effective policymaking and implementation. Yet I asked Thune why he wanted to thrust himself into the center of the bullseye.
I just feel like we're living in, interesting times, and we need common sense leadership. And I think that if nothing else, hopefully what we produce in this part of the world is common sense leadership and that focuses on the right things.
Farm groups welcomed the news. The National Cattlemen's Beef Association says Thune has long been an ally for cattle producers and is an excellent choice to secure meaningful relief for cattle producers as he leads the Senate, including on taxes. I'm Michelle Rook reporting for AgDay.
All right, thanks, Michelle. Rain and snow are helping to lead some improvement when it comes to drought. On the latest drought monitor, you can see those areas of improvement in the central part of the country, especially in the plains, Midwest, and South. However, conditions worsen in the east for the second week in a row. Right now, just under 50% of the country is in the moderate to exceptional categories. That's down about 2% from last week. We'll have more on how farmers and ranchers in Arkansas are dealing with drought conditions coming up. The Pacific Northwest is in for another dose of rain and snow, while some portions of the southeast could get some help fighting drought. Meteorologist Jack Van Meter has more.
Taking a look at our simulated reflectivity for the next week here in the United States, we can see high pressure really dominating in the southern and central plains. As I put this in motion, we can see that we are looking at a couple different systems starting to form again in the northern continental United States. First off, we're going to be dealing with some snow, especially over there by Billings, just north of Denver in Wyoming. And also take a look at this off in the Pacific Ocean, dealing with a constant supply of moisture as well. And also, we're looking at a system starting to form down by El Paso. A lot of moisture starting to congregate together and start to ride up. This is a system we are going to be keeping our eye on, just because a lot of people are going to be seeing rain, but actually some people could be seeing snow for the first time. Take a look at that snow starting to form, especially on the other side of the system there. And here's Zach showing off his annual harvest video in South Australia. He says here he is reaping barley the old-fashioned way. Check out the Massey Ferguson there. I'm more on your forecast coming right up.
President Biden is scheduled to meet with his Chinese counterpart Xi Jinping this weekend. Many believe this will be the final time the two will meet in person, with President Biden exiting in January. Reuters reporting the two were expected to hold talks on the sidelines of the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation Forum in Lima, Peru. It would be their first known interaction since a phone call back in April. Officials say Mr. Biden will raise concerns about a Chinese-linked group that recently hacked into private telecommunications of U.S. officials and China's support for Russia in the war against Ukraine. China is now the top trading partner in South America, and that is represented in this brand new mega port in Peru. Chinese state-owned shipping giant COSCO is the controlling shareholder. China's President Xi Jinping was to inaugurate the port on Thursday ahead of the Asian Pacific Economic Cooperation Forum there. The Peruvian government hopes the port, which is 37 miles north of Lima, will become a strategic transshipment hub for the region, opening a new line connecting South America to Asia and speeding trade across the Pacific for Peru's blueberries, Brazil's soybeans, and Chile's copper, among other exports. The Illinois Farm Bureau will soon no longer be a member of the American Farm Bureau Federation. Right now, up on agweb.com is a report about this, with the American Farm Bureau Federation deciding to terminate the membership effective December 20th. AFBF President Zippy Duvall announcing it. He says the decision is related to maintaining farmer control of organizational decisions. The IFB argues that national organizations' action threatened to deprive them of important membership rights and benefits, and it has filed a lawsuit claiming the termination violates a 1990 settlement between the two organizations. IFB's president says they have no desire to leave AFBF, saying it believes AFBF is doing this because its affiliate insurance company does not want to force non-farmers to join. While the Illinois Farm Bureau has about 400,000 members, more than 70,000 are farmers or related to agriculture. Well, it's another tough day for commodities as the U.S. dollar continues to strengthen. We'll take a closer look coming up in Markets Now. And later, while the amount of drought impacting the country shrank this week, cattle producers in Arkansas are already facing feed pressure. We'll head to the pasture today in the country. After posting record revenues in the third quarter, JBS is raising its earnings estimates for this year. JBS posting a 571% increase in net income year over year, posting a $3.84 billion net profit for the third quarter. That's more than 6 times higher from a year earlier. Reuters reporting it was helped by its pork and chicken business in Brazil. Commodities continue to fall, driven lower by a strengthening U.S. dollar. Michelle Rook has more in Markets Now.
Well, an ugly down day in both grain and livestock futures trade on Thursday. Randy Martinson is back with analysis. And Randy, it felt like we saw risk-off selling pressure pretty much across the ag complex.
Yeah, we did. I mean, it didn't look like it was going to start to be that bad. The overnight session seemed like we might be seeing a little calming of the heads, but boy, once the session got rolling, we started to gain some momentum, and the selling just continued to pile into the marketplace and taking these markets down through some major support, pushing wheat close to contract lows.
So risk off, did it come from the higher dollar or the realization that maybe we are going to see tariffs? Is the market getting back to reality?
You know, I think it was a combination of both of those. I mean, I think the market is afraid about the tariffs, and that's, part of why we've seen some good demand, especially in corn and soybeans. On the flip side, we're also seeing very little weather or other news to help give us any major or bullish news or direction. We've got bearish weather as we're seeing rains in the southern plains. Brazil, Argentina seeing rains, getting good planting progress.
Yeah, and we closed pretty much on the lows in corn and soybeans on Thursday. Talk about the major support we took out and where we have to hold next.
With corn, that 425 was a pretty strong level in December. We went through that. Now, if we can see this market recover tomorrow and maybe bounce back some of that, that'll help. But at this point, taking that out opens this up to probably a test of $4. In soybeans, we broke through the $10 level in January. November went off at $9.85. That seems to be the kind of the line in the sand there now for the soybean market. And wheat, all three wheat exchanges are sitting, 5 to maybe 7 cents off contract lows.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, do you think those contract low areas in the wheat market are going to hold here or not?
We've bled this market pretty bad, and it seems like the sellers kind of have control of it at this point. The other bad part is that, we're about ready to get into the holiday season where thin light trading takes place. So the only news we have going in wheat right now, once we get past November and no more, proper progress reports coming out, is going to be demand, and that's been weak in wheat. So we might look at taking that out.
All right, thanks for joining us, Randy Martinson Ag. We'll have more Ag Day coming up. Watch Markets Now with Michelle Rook on the Farm Journal YouTube channel, keeping you updated throughout the day on the markets at the open, midday, and close. Find out what moved the markets today and what to expect the market to do next.
Current drought monitor that just was released yesterday, we are starting to see some actual major improvement, especially in southern parts of the country. We can see that pretty much all dryness have been taken out from Memphis all the way up to Cincinnati. Again, very good news, and for St. Louis as well. So the Mississippi River really starting to get some of that moisture that's so desperately needed. Again, very, very good news. Moving our way to the East Coast, we can see that a lot of dry conditions and actually some stages of moderate drought and even severe drought there in New Jersey really starting to take hold. That's why they've been seeing some of those stranger brush fires start to pop up. It's just those really, really dry conditions. As we move out west, we can see, unfortunately, that the major drought that they're having out there, the extreme drought on the border of the Dakotas onto Montana and parts of Wyoming as well, unfortunately, really hasn't improved all that much, and we're still keeping our eye, especially in western Arizona, where they're dealing with extreme levels of drought as well. Good news, though, there is relief on the way in the form of the jet stream. So let's go ahead and walk through that. We can see for tomorrow, the jet stream is going to be ridged up. So we are going to be having high pressure in the south, really clearing out skies. But unfortunately, when we have clear skies, we don't have the rain that is needed. We are seeing this trough starting to move throughout parts of the western part of the country, and another trough really riding up on the ridge. And now things will get interesting moving into next week as well, where we see this cut off low really start and try and ride up this ridge. And it could be interesting because we could be seeing some cooler temperatures in the country as well. Below average chances of precipitation pretty much for the south. So again, something we're keeping our eye on. And for temperatures, very cool temperatures as well. Mason City, Iowa, 53 degrees, low of 38 degrees. Wright, Wyoming, 51 degrees, low of a cool 25 degrees. And Medford, Oregon, 48 degrees, low right at the freezing mark.
McDonald's is looking for ways to make beef more climate friendly. We'll tell you about a new partnership next. And later, we're off to Arkansas to see how ranchers are dealing with drought and hay shortages in the country. McDonald's is forming a collaboration it says will produce beef more sustainably in the U.S. The fast food giant teaming up with Lopez Foods, a protein producer, and Syngenta. The goal is to increase feed efficiency and help reduce the amount of greenhouse gas emissions released per pound of meat produced. Now, the plan is to use Syngenta's Inogen corn, which the company says has been shown to increase feed efficiency in cattle and help reduce emissions. McDonald's planned to use the program to help deliver a reduction of more than 164,000 metric tons of carbon dioxide equivalent per per year. Bex is breaking ground on a new soybean processing facility. It will be located in New Madrid, Missouri. That's in the southeastern part of the state. The company says the state-of-the-art facility will help meet the growing demand for soybeans in the Mid-South region, along with expanding opportunities for local farmers. The facility will cover 60,000 square feet and have a processing capacity of 3 million units of soybeans each year. Construction will be completed in phases, with the first phase expected to be finished next month. It's projected to be fully operational by the fall of 2026. Planting season is months away, but ranchers are focusing on winter. We'll see how cattle operations in Arkansas are dealing with drought and a lack of forage next in the country. With dozens of Arkansas counties still experiencing moderate to severe drought, many farmers and ranchers are facing challenges. As the Arkansas Farm Bureau shows us, even with the forecasted rain moving across the state, early hay feeding and soil health are big concerns headed into winter.
We moved here in 1988. Basically, we were what you call commercial beef cattle operation. The last brown wetting rain we've had was August the 12th. In 12, we had a drought in the summer. In 2012, June, July, and August, we received 6.93 inches. Our average was 11.2. In 2024, for the months of August through October, our average is 12.3 inches. We have received at our house here 2.99 using our official rain gauge. We've actually started buying a supplemental high protein, high energy tub. We've still got grass, we're still grazing, we're not having to feed hay. Normally we start feeding about the middle of December with our forage base here, and I have no doubt we'll be feeding by the middle of next month, by the middle of November. Where I thought I was going to have a lot of excess, I've done decided that's not going to happen.
My family's been in the farming operation for generations. We've grown up in it, our family. Matter of fact, me and my brothers, we're the 7th generation here. Right now we're running about 650 head of cow-calf pairs. Last time we got rain, boy, we've really not seen any significant rainfall since about mid-June. Of course, everybody probably feels like they've had it the worst, but I feel like we've just seen rain go north and south all around us for months now. We have not had any significant rain to fill ponds or to grow grass.
All those buttercups and little barley and downy brome and things like that typically come up in the fall of the year, and you just see them down under your Bermuda, but as winter comes on, those cows start picking on them. We haven't had enough moisture to even germinate those.
Is there anything you can do preventative to prepare for something like this?
Just pray a lot, and we do that a whole lot this year.
If you're fortunate enough that you can stockpile some of your forages as you're grazing through the summer, rather than just getting on a pasture and staying and taking it all the way down, then at least you've got something for them to graze on. It's so dry that the cows are grazing in the bottom of the pot.
The first challenge that comes to mind is water. There's a stock tank right back over here. Hadn't had to use for quite a while because our ponds are typically so good, and we've got it cranked up and using it. We've had to get wells going. The biggest issue that we're dealing with is our grass. I mean, we've got no grass. The cattle are having to really dig for every bite. If they're out foraging, they're digging and they're licking dirt, you know. Well, with that, you get worms. And so I think everybody's probably gonna have to up their game on deworming cattle for the foreseeable future. Usually right now, we're still grazing green grass. A typical year for us, we're not feeding hay until generally about December. I basically started full feeding September 26th. For sure by October 1st, I mean everything, I was full feeding, and I might have let it go too far at that. You talk about expense. I don't know I've ever fed this much hay wearing a short sleeve shirt like I am today and sweating in the 90-degree heat. Dust pneumonia, we're doctoring a lot of calves, a lot of cows for dust pneumonia. We need some hard driving, kind of flooding type rains to really get our ponds filled up. Are we going to grow a stockpile that's going to get us into December and January at this point? I don't think so. There's going to be problems that we're going to deal with that haven't quite reared its ugly head yet that probably will.
And our thanks to the Arkansas Farm Bureau for sharing that story with us. And that's all the time we have this morning. From all of us here at Ag Day, I'm Clinton Griffiths. Have a great day out in the farm country.